Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Pavlich, along with Dr. Nicole Sapphire, Joey Jones, and Griff Jenkins. And welcome to the Big Weekend Show. The big story tonight, communism.
Comrade Kamala announced that she wants to institute socialist price controls. You saw that. Never worked before, never ever worked. This is the Maduro plan.
Donald Trump calling out Kamala Harris for her economic plan that is straight from the communism playbook at a rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania that wrapped up a short time ago.
Her speech yesterday, Kamala went full communist. It's what her father, a Marxist, he was a Marxist, it's what her father taught her from a young girl growing up. She's promising to hand out things she can't deliver. She can never deliver them. She'll never get them approved. Her plan is very dangerous because it may sound good politically, and that's the problem.
At the rally, Trump brought up a Venezuelan immigrant who told his powerful story about how communism ruined his grandparents' country and then his own. And he warned the same disaster could happen here.
I'm from Venezuela. I left the country in 2007 because of communism. I still have family there. My grandparents from my mom's side were from Cuba. In the early 1990s, Chavez did a military coup, and right after he ran for president, my granddad saw the similarities to what was happening in Cuba, and he told everybody that would listen to him that it was coming. And everybody was like, nah, this is Venezuela, this is not Cuba, this will never happen to us. And guess what? It happened to us, and has been happening to other Latin American countries as well. So when they tell you here, it will never happen, that's not true. And the only way right now that we can avoid keep going down that path is making Trump president again.
Amazing to hear it from someone who experienced it, Joey. You know, when I heard her talking about this Friday, I felt like it was like touching a hot stove. Like, it hurts when you hear someone who's running for president saying she wants to use communist-style price controls, and given the history of these things and that we know what they do to the middle class and lower working classes of a country.
Yeah, you'd think the root causes czar, right? Because we can't call her the border czar. Apparently that got erased from. So we'll call her the root causes czar. The only person in the administration who was giving the task to find out what the root causes are for a problem. You think she would unveil a plan that does something other than address the end result. Right? Like, she doesn't want to talk about the root causes of high groceries, the root causes of why people can't buy a house. She wants to throw them a check at the house, and she wants to go and tell industries they can't make money off of the products they sell. It really kind of blows my mind. You'd think she should have a doctorate in root causes and should come out and talk about it. But, you know, she has to run against Donald Trump and Joe Biden, so she can't take a step against any of the policies that they've done to, in the best light, not tackle what's happened as a result of the pandemic and all the spending that they were a part of. At the worst light, they killed energy. I mean, if you don't know what makes food cheaper, $2 diesel makes food cheaper.
Exactly.
I live around cows and corn. I know this to be true.
Yeah, it's true. You need diesel to get the food out of the ground and diesel to take the food to the grocery store. But Dr. Sapphire, Donald Trump, I think, made a good point when he says, it sounds great. Sounds great that you're going to limit the costs of food and groceries, right? Sounds like a great idea until it's actually implemented and put into practice.
Yeah, but first of all, I don't think that saying the words like communism, socialism is really going to make a difference, because the people who are voting for Kamala Harris, I mean, they either don't understand what that means or they don't care. And listen, I'm not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, but let's just go down to the basics. 2019, pre-COVID, gas was $3.44 a gallon. It's now $3.44 a gallon versus $2.60 a gallon. Look at eggs, it's now $3.10 per dozen versus $2.36 per dozen. So it was much cheaper under President Trump. And Kamala Harris has actually said that herself. She's like, things were much cheaper before COVID. I mean, it's the best endorsement for the Trump policies you could possibly give. But here's what her thing is. Instead of exerting some sort of economical expertise or plan, she's saying government control, that's the way to do it. I'm going to give some arbitrary metric onto what people should actually have for their income. Meanwhile, grocery stores only operate at a 1% to 3% profit margin. So where is this coming from? This truly is government government control. And the reality is we can vote in socialism, we can vote in communism, but there is no way we're going to be able to vote our way out of it. So elections have consequences.
Well, you talk about people voting, and of course we have these warnings from economists about what this could do will actually cause food shortages. We're also hearing from people like the Venezuelan immigrant, but also those in Congress. Listen to this congressman, Republican from Florida, who was born in Cuba, and what he has to say about Harris's plans.
Cuba, before the communism, was probably the second most prosperous nation here in the Western Hemisphere. Standard of living was really, really high. Now people are fleeing Cuba. Millions of Cubans have left Cuba because they can't sustain themselves. They have shortages of everything, and it's all due to the centralized economy of communism. And so, look, price controls, they don't work. Her father is a Marxist economics professor at Stanford, and so when she wants economic advice, I guess she's going to ask it from her father, who happens to be a Marxist. And so that's what America has to look forward to if Kamala Harris becomes president of the United States.
Griff, these stories will continue to come out, but also it just emphasizes that the people around her on this campaign don't have actual private sector business experience. They're in academia or they've been in government their entire lives.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But look, here, if your opponent is calling you a communist, don't launch a major economic speech garnered around federal government-enforced price controls. You're empowering the federal government to set price controls on a metric based on whatever they choose. That is ultimate government power, and that's why the socialism-communism comparison is being made. But to Joey's point quickly about root causes, so the reason why she's not talking about the root causes of inflation is because she's only got two choices. You either blame it on, because you got to blame somebody, remember, for all of life's ills. You got to either blame it on the Biden administration, which, oops, she's part of. She's the number 2 on that ticket in this administration, or corporate greed. And so her way to get to corporate greed is now through government control. And I think, to argue it on the intellectual sort of policy, it's going to be tough for her to stop.
I don't think she's arguing the whole socialist agenda. That is what she has been about since her primary campaign. That is who she is fundamentally. So why she's walking a lot of it back, I think intrinsically that is the agenda. Yeah. That's what she stands for.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll be watching that because she has a lot more economic policies to explain and to roll out. But in the meantime, Kamala Harris thinks her plan for the economy is all about opportunity.
We will build what I call an opportunity economy. As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy. An opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, has an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and their children, and where we remove the barriers to opportunity.
Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson live at the White House tonight. Lucas.
Well, good evening, Katie, and thank you for the opportunity. Vice President Kamala Harris hitting the campaign trail there in North Carolina, where she introduced her economic plan, talking about price gouging. She called it something else. She also admitted that prices are much higher now than they were formerly under Donald Trump.
I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food. Prices are still too high. A loaf of bread cost 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't.
Now, Obama's former economic advisor says this is not sensible policy, and I think the biggest hope is that it ends up being a lot of rhetoric and not reality. There's no upside here, and there is some downside. Now, former Trump economic advisor also weighed in.
My guess is that a lot of the things she said in the past about what she really wants to do, like the Green New Deal, for example, getting carbon neutral by 2030, all that kind of stuff would cause a deep recession. Carbon neutral by 2030 is almost impossible. 75% of our electricity comes from burning fossil fuels. So how are they going to do that? If they try it, then you're just going to have to shut down the economy.
Now, the Washington Post editorial board also slammed Vice President Harris's address. Of course, its owner, Jeff Bezos, also, in addition to owning the Post and Amazon, owns Whole Foods. So as a grocery store owner, probably doesn't want the price gouging. Katie?
Indeed. Lucas, thank you so much. So even the liberal Atlantic is calling Harris's plan economically dumb. The Washington Post editorial board said it was full of gimmicks, and even CNN is calling her out.
Is this just a ploy? Because it sounds kind of like it.
It's not going to be markets. It's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges you for milk or for eggs. It's going to be some bureaucrat in D.C., which seems like totally unworkable. You've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, et cetera. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. It's really hard for me to imagine any form of legislation that preserves the spirit of what she's proposing that would not be, at best do nothing, at worst cause a lot of harm.
So, Joey, the vice president talked about price gauging, right?
Yeah.
Gouging is what she meant to say. Price gouging. But the only people price gouging are the federal government. Inflation exists as a result of the federal government printing too much money. And the price gougers here are the Biden-Harris administration. And inherently, what she's doing here is divisive, because she's pitting the American people and voters up against the companies and saying, is it the government or the companies? Pick one. That's what she's trying to do here.
The biggest criticism against President Obama was the economy wanted to flourish, and he continued to hold it back with some of his policies. No one really argues that the economy didn't get better over those 8 years during his presidency. The argument is we could have done a lot better, a lot quicker. And there's no better evidence of that than President Trump coming into office, and within a few months, everything feeling like it was just on juiced. It was ready to go. And so there's a lot that has to do with investors' ability to believe, hey, we're good to invest money into this economy. We're good to invest money into this industry. I have a good friend that was Kevin McCarthy's lead energy policy advisor. And the little things they've done to stifle energy and to make it affordable, I think that President Trump is smart to bring it all back to energy. If you ask him what he's going to do to make houses cheaper, he's going to say energy. Groceries cheaper, energy. Yeah. It goes back to energy because that translates to people, and I think, in fact, it translates to the economy.
So, Griff, on the point of energy, going back to Kamala Harris's record as the Attorney General of California, right before she went to the Senate, she sued the Obama-Biden administration over preventing them from fracking off the coast of California.
Look, it's a major problem, but, I think really as you set up that whole segment perfectly, and Lucas was pointing out, the criticism from the mainstream media, the Post and former advisors, the Committee for the Federal Responsible Budget says this adds $1.7 trillion to the federal deficit. And at the end of the day, if you're not going to solve sector issues like in the energy sector, but the blanket overall plan, which the Post is calling a disappointment, adds nearly $2 trillion, you might want to go back to the drawing board.
You might want to get some economic advisors that have some real world experience. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, anytime you listen to her, it sounds like her solution for everything is more government control. And the thing that she says, it really sounds like the Hunger Games. It's like you have the opportunity to survive, but under this strict government control, whether it's healthcare, whether it's innovation, whatever it is, big food, they're going to get rid of supply and demand, get rid of import-export competition. Government control is the way of the future under Kamala Harris, and she's proud of that.
And she puts more power in the hands of bureaucrats in D.C. to manage your life out in America.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.